Hello and welcome, Angelinos. We thank you for tuning in to yet another brilliant episode of the Galaxy Guy podcast, hosted by Chris Maldonado, a show made by loyal Galaxy fans for loyal Galaxy fans who bleed blue, white and gold. So join us as we talk about the ins and outs, as well as the ups and downs of your favorite team, the one and only, the Los Angeles Galaxy.
Hola y bienvenidos, Angelinos. Welcome back, Galaxy fans, to the Galaxy Guy Show. You guys know the rest. I'm your host, Chris Maldonado. Y como siempre, we are always here to talk about your favorite club, our favorite club, the LA Galaxy. We do have quite a bit to talk about tonight. If you see some sad faces, probably some teary eyes, there are some onions involved, okay? But tonight we will be unwinding Sunday's scorching hot game versus Sporting Kansas City. Of course, I'm talking about temperature-wise, if you guys were there at the game, because the on-field product was a little bit cold. We will be talking about that, how that result impacts the Galaxy's playoff chances, and what the LA Galaxy's just their outlook towards the playoffs will look like going forward. We have some very good figures to talk about on top of the stats. As always, we'll provide our unbiased analysis. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the game. We kind of broke it down in detail last week. It was just strictly playoff conversation. We're going to be focusing on this past Sunday's game. So to do that, to help me do all that, I've got joining me the usuals. You already know them. They need no introduction, but here it is. Back with us tonight is Mr. Matt Granger himself. Matt, how are you doing, brother?
I had a really good weekend. Again, it was a really good weekend. I had 4 days off. Friday, we did happy hour with my wife, and then we saw a LAN concert, and then Saturday, USC won, and then we did a really fancy meal in Hollywood. Sunday was the Galaxy game, so you know how that went. And then Monday, I sat by the pool, drank Mai Tais, did my fantasy football draft, and my wife has already started making, that's right, Halloween cookies have made an appearance on today's podcast. Just when you thought this podcast couldn't get more racy, we got pumpkins, y'all.
Oh, dude, there it is, man. It's the best season of the year, man.
I love it.
You gotta love it, dude. Hey, it's good having you back. Matt wasn't with us last week. Casey and I were here with our guest, Christian Rosas, and we talked all playoffs. But it's good having you on. Your insight is always welcomed. And you guys know my other co-host needs no introduction. The stat man himself, Mr. Casey Cagle. Casey, how are you tonight, dude?
I'm good. Just trying to beat this heat, sweating like Chicharito at the PK spot. So we'll get to that later.
Sweating like Costa at a buffet.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Listen, it's good having both of you guys on. And before we start the show, just a quick word to the fans. You guys know I don't like reminding everyone every week, but it does really help us with the algorithm and all that good stuff. If you guys leave a like, it takes a quick second. If you leave us a comment, I read all the comments. I get a kick out of reading some of the funnier ones. So, and if you're not subscribed yet, you're watching this right now, you might have seen it on an ad somewhere. Give us a subscription. It takes you 10 seconds and you'll get one video per week at the very least. We won't spam you with anything. So with that said, guys, let's talk a little bit more about the buildup to this last Sunday's game, right? So as you guys know, the Galaxy was coming off a pretty decent 2-game road trip in which they managed to snag a respectable 4 points out of 2 games. So those 4 points are honestly, I would say, a little bit unexpected by a lot of people. Definitely unexpected by me. I expected maybe 2 points, 1 point, Not a lot of people would have given the Galaxy all 3 points at New England. And I know a lot of people were counting the Galaxy out at Toronto, myself included. I have to own up to that. But they fought hard, scrappy wins to say the least. A scrappy win in New England and a scrappy tie in Toronto. Very ugly. But folks were feeling optimistic despite the Galaxy still being in 8th place after that road trip, out of a playoff position. But people were feeling a little optimistic going forward that things were finally going to turn around. Of course, as we saw this past Sunday, the Galaxy has proven that they are their worst enemy and they are not above pooping the bed and, squandering opportunities. So let me ask you guys, my co-host, and Matt, we'll start with you. I'll ask you first, since you were not here last week. I kind of had a little bit of insight from Casey last week, but how did you feel about the Galaxy's chances coming into Sunday against SKC after what we would consider a successful road trip? How did you feel?
I definitely felt like we had put ourselves in a significantly better position coming into the home game. Like you said, I think most people were hoping for 2 points. Maybe think we might even fall short of that, and the fact that we got 4 was a big advantage. So the idea that in a congested schedule we were sitting in position to get 7 points would have been a big boost to our morale, and then also our playoff position. I think if you had followed the results this past weekend, especially with Nashville winning, you're starting to see certain playoff seeding start to pull out of reach, and that position is fifth place. So fifth place after this week might be a little bit out of reach now. We might only be playing for either sixth or seventh. But I was feeling good going to the home game, thinking that we had a lot of momentum behind us.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary to think about that. We've talked about it a little bit back and forth in our group chat about certain playoff positions that are the gap is widening, and a lot of those positions are out of reach for the Galaxy now, right? I think we can definitely forget about first, second, third. I think we can forget about fourth. Realistically, our best shot would probably be a fifth seeding at this point, right? Because the teams there are very competitive right now, and I don't know, it's crazy. Casey, let me ask you this: what were you honestly expecting from the Galaxy on Sunday after this road trip?
I think the draw at home to Seattle definitely left a bad taste in not only the crowd's mouths but also the players' mouths themselves. I think they were hungry for a home victory, and like you said, coming off the back of a 2-game road trip, getting 4 out of 6 points on the road, you have to think that the team was riding a high going into this game. But realistically, there's still so much more to play for in the Western Conference. Not every team, is guaranteed that spot in the playoffs at this point below, the fourth place line. And so there's a lot of dogfighting and kind of crazy results coming out of the West right now. And like Matt said, there are positions that are definitely out of reach considering the points tallies. So I was expecting a win. I think the team was maybe expecting a win, but we saw the result yesterday. I mean, you can blame a lot of factors, the heat, but the fact is, both teams had to play in it, so you can't really pin that on anything but the team's performance. And I'll get to that in our points later.
I did hear that. I mean, I hear a million excuses after every Galaxy, after every poor performance, for many seasons now. But this season seems like extra worse. A lot of people are just, grasping at straws, finding these excuses. And I heard that particular excuse. I heard, the guys were just like low energy, lethargic. It was the heat, And I'm thinking to myself, so were the Galaxy players the only players out there experiencing the heat? Because, Kansas City was out there too. Their 11 players were playing in the exact same heat. And if anything, it's more of a shock to them, because if you look at the weather in Kansas City right now, we're talking about the low to mid 70s. They're coming into 90-degree weather. It's more of a shock to them, right? If anything, it should have affected them more than it did the Galaxy players. But it is what it is. Sometimes you can't process, right? You just have to find an excuse for these things, right? No accountability. But all right, so covered that. Let's talk about Sunday's game specifically. Let's get into the meat of this sandwich. Prosciutto sandwich, to be more specific, with some pepper jack cheese and some sourdough bread.
Yum.
Let's do it. What do you guys say we do that? We talk about this game?
Let's get into it.
Yep.
Let's get into it. We're going to dive deeper into some stuff. You guys know, the audience knows, this is the part of the show where we talk about the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the ugly stuff, right? For this game. Of course, we have to talk about the good stuff first. Um, who wants to take this first? Let's talk about some good stuff. Casey, you wanna take this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest highlight of the night was Ricky Puig. I mean, he's impressed so many of the fans so far, and just the 3 games he's played, 2 games starting. He had a 95% pass completion rating last night, 85% pass completion rating in the final third, which is great. And he's the engine of the midfield. I mean, and that especially showed in a game like yesterday, where most of the game was played in the midfield. He always tries to involve himself in every area of the pitch, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, you know, left wing, right wing, wherever he can find it. Always finds the space to make himself the best option. And you can tell that his teammates trust him with most of the possession because they always pass to him. He's able to find and create the best combination, passing combinations with other players. And, I may be putting cart before the horse here, but I think there are shades of Iniesta in his game. I mean, he literally plays like a young Iniesta.
Yeah.
And that's something that, is worth its weight in gold. And the physicality of this league just doesn't seem to phase him. He drew 4 fouls last night, but he always keeps his head on straight and doesn't let other players get the best of him mentally. And I think that's what's really going to take him far in this league.
I can't disagree with that, man. And he's one of my positives too. But I'll let Matt give us his good takes on this.
Yeah, I think just reiterating what Casey said, like, he led the team in accurate passes with 82. He had the most accurate passing with 95. I don't think since he's played, he's gone below 90 percentage. He had the most duels won at 7. He had the most fouls won at 4. He had 104 touches. Like, that's for someone who's that involved in the game, in the middle of the midfield, like, that's an incredible percentage. He's just like leagues and leagues above other players. And I think the fact that Casey said, like, he plays like Iniesta, I think when he was coming out of La Masia, that was a lot of the rumor, was that he was going to be that heir apparent. And, for one reason or another, it just didn't work out. To his personal benefit, him playing at MLS and handling the physicality so well is going to work out better for him in the long run. And I think you are seeing teammates start to defer to him in the midfield and for him to make big decisions. And, some of the smaller things in his game are really the more brilliant parts of it. The goal that Chicharito scored on the first one that came from Victor Vasquez, Puig had hit, a pass that broke 2 different levels to get to Victor. And then he had plenty of time to hit that easy assist. And then on the penalty that was drawn, same thing. Like, Puig hit like a 40-yard pass on the ground to Cabral on a perfectly weighted. Yeah, perfectly weighted. Like, honestly, any one of us could have scored that goal. And then, like, just smaller things, like the way he turns on people, like all of his turns were successful. He turns and he gets like 2 feet to 2 yards of space every single time he turns. And then his first 2 steps are just, they're so much faster than the rest of the league. There was one time he switched the ball and it went directly through the heart of the midfield through 4 SKC players. And the ball was like barely eye level height. Like, it's like he's looking at a map of the field of where the defenders are, and he's just drawing a marker of where the ball should go and where it has to end up. Yeah. And he's just an incredible player. There are just so many things that, like, if you just appreciate the game, he's just wonderful to watch. I feel like it's back to like when I used to watch Zlatan, where I just go there just to watch him more than I watch the team, because I'm always going to be a bigger fan of the game than I will be of any other team. And yeah, he's just a blessing to watch, honestly.
Yeah. and now, let me preface this by saying that, I do understand that it's such a small sample size, right? We've seen the guy play 4 MLS games so far. I think Casey said 2 starts, right? It's 2 starts.
2 starts, yeah.
His first game he played like 20 minutes, trash minutes, right? Against Seattle, I believe.
Or actually, I think it might be 3 starts, because New England, Toronto, and last 3 night. So yeah, 3 starts.
3 starts.
My apologies.
But if you look at what he's done in those 3 starts, right? I mean, a goal, an assist. He should technically have more assists. It just seems that he's playing at a completely different level, a level or 2 above the rest of our team, with the exception of maybe Victor Vasquez, who seems to understand him, right? And they play so well off of each other. But unfortunately, Victor Vasquez is on his last legs and just doesn't have that the physicality to maintain that level of play with a 23-year-old, right? So, but I can see that Puig will be the real deal going forward. I mean, just look at this past Sunday's game alone. You guys already talked about all of those amazing stats, right? Despite the lethargic energy of this team, despite the heat, all of his teammates around him look lethargic, low energy. Ricky was making runs up and down the field. Matt said it. He was making these turns. He was taking players on. He was just bolting into sprints up and down that field. He was clearly the most energetic guy out there, and completing all those passes. He was active in the defense. He was tracking back. He had 5 key recoveries. He was also very active going forward. I mean, you guys saw the game. If you saw the game, you saw him creating chances, key chances for that offense. I mean, he gave that pass to Victor Vasquez, which led to the first goal, right, by Chicharito. He's the one that made that play happen through the midfield. Simply put, Puig was a one-man show out there. I mean, the rest of the team was just playing catch-up, It's a damn shame that it seems that everyone, like I said, everyone out there is playing like a level or two below him, and they're having a hard time understanding him because, like Matt said, he's like already drawn a map of where he wants the ball to go, where it's going. And players are used to such a slower pace, They're not used to that fast pace that Puig is coming from, So it just, I can't say enough about it, but I know he's going to likely be a DP maybe by next season or the season after that. And it puts a smile on my face, and it makes me optimistic to think that we're finally going to have a DP midfielder, a DP period, that is worthy of the DP title, that is going to play like a DP, and it's nuts, but Puig reminds me of a guy who used to play for Atlanta United. Name escapes me. Miguel Almiron.
Yeah.
Miguel Almiron, right? Almost the same physical, composition, young kid with like a skinny body. You would not think that he's going to be as physical, but he's physical. Like, he's not afraid of contact. He gets hit, of course, very easily gets knocked over because he's like 90 pounds, but he's like a scrappy guy, and he's not afraid. So,
and he wears long sleeves in 90-degree heat.
And he tucks in his shirt
for the full 90, which is insane.
Tucks in his shirt.
Classic, man.
What a gentleman.
What a gentleman. Seriously, it's the beauty of the sport, man. I love watching him play. I'm optimistic. And I'll finish it off by saying this. Get this kid next season, get him a proper partner in the midfield, somewhere to play beside him, right? I'm not talking about Gaston, who's going to play deep, right? I'm talking about someone that's going to either play with him side by side, someone that's maybe going to play a little bit more, that link up play with him. Hire a badass DP striker next season, and this offense is going to be scary. You have that guy weaving passes to a striker that's just going to be like at that level, waiting for those passes, and this offense is going to be scary. But that's what I've got to say about the good. I think we all concurred that the best part of this game was Ricky Puig. Anything else that we might be missing, guys?
Nope. Best player on the team.
Yeah.
Best player on the team. All right. So now, of course, we do have to move on to the bad moments of the game. And I have a lot to say about this, but I'm gonna let Matt take over first. Matt, hit us with those ugly moments.
Was there a bad moment in the game? Maybe like one or two. So I don't really have a bad. I have like an ugly one and ugly two because they both seem to rise to that level. So I'll go with ugly one. Ugly one's gonna have to be Chicharito. You wouldn't think that a person who scored 2 goals in a game was gonna get booed at the end of the game, but there you go, right? And it comes down to his final PK shot, like the Panetka, right? It's so funny. Like, just to show you, like, just to give you like an idea of how bad that shot was. Drew Yearwood of the Red Bulls punted the ball in anger during his game, and he hit 2 people in the stands, a 7-year-old boy and a teenage girl. And somehow, some way, Chicharito's shot eclipsed them in major media. Like, Chicharito's shot was so offensive that people don't even care about these 2 kids who got hit by a soccer ball right in the face. For me, it was so much on the line, the game, playoffs. It just came off so arrogant and just like so unbelievably selfish. of him to do that. I mean, he was already sitting on a hat trick, but like that wasn't enough for the guy. Like he had to get the Instagram clicks and do a Panetka. And my wife was pointing it out during the game. He grabbed the ball right away. He was peacocking around the field, and he was, jaw jacking with the goalie. And she's like, he's gonna miss it. He's too emotional. That's just the way it is. This is like Zen Chicha guru, emotional coach of the team player, and the goalie just got in his head. Like they were just literally talking trash so much that Puig actually had to get in the middle of them towards the end. And then God bless Puig, I love that kid. when the ref said it was a handball, Puig like turned to him, said, "I told you so." Like drank his water bottle, spit it in front of his face, and then threw the water bottle towards the sideline and started amping up the crowd. Like just what an all-star.
Yeah.
But Chicharito, like he just decided like, I don't like this goalie. I'm going to try to embarrass him. And really, he's the one who ended up getting embarrassed. So, you don't expect that kind of selfishness from your captain. You expect a lot more maturity. And honestly, like it just made him the laughing stock of the internet. And by proxy, it honestly made us the laughing stock of the internet, because that was 2 points in the hole right there. Easy.
Yeah.
And,
crucial points.
A Panetka, like for anyone who doesn't play, like that's something you do when you're trying to shithouse the goalie and when you're trying to shithouse the other team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to beat a goalie up the middle. And that way was just, it's very, very selfish. Even for the best players, it's a very, very there's no chance for a rebound there. That's just all about you. So for me, my ugly one is going to be Chicharito for being just a very selfish person in that moment.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. And not only was it the decision making behind the Panetka, it was just such a weak shot. It's almost as if he decided very last second to attempt it, and he wasn't sure about it, but he did it anyway. And I think he said as much during the press conference, right? He's like, it just came to me and I did it. Casey, what do you think, man? What are your takes?
I think my ugly is Cheech's PK, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I've got my own thoughts as well. But my bad was the last 25 minutes of the game. I mean, this team has shown again and again this season that they do not have the ability to close out games in the last 30 minutes.
Tale as old as time, right?
And, it seems to always be triggered by the 60 to 65th minute substitutions, because Sasha came on in like the 61st minute, I believe.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the life was just completely sucked out of the team. And there was a lot of tired legs and sluggishness out there towards the end of the game. And like we talked about earlier, you can't blame the Heat when both teams had to play in it. You know what I mean? It's all mentality at that point. Yeah. And then from there, the dominoes started to fall. It's like that game Kerplunk, you guys remember, where it's the tube full of marbles and there's sticks in it. And, the more sticks you pull out, the more the marbles are about to fall out of the bottom of the tube. We were down to our last few sticks in that game last night. And, all the marbles almost completely fell. Yeah. And it all started with Johnny Russell's PK in the 65th minute. And then the second goal from Felipe Hernandez was just absolutely lazy defending by Araujo. He was caught out of position and had to hustle back to cover. Yeah. Him and Koulibaly didn't close down the space and allowed Hernandez to shoot. And it was a pretty quality goal for SKC to go ahead and take the lead 2-1. And, luckily we found ourselves in a couple of, on the right end on a couple of PK calls towards the end of the game. Yeah. And we all know how that went.
Man, it's Julian Araujo. Is it just me, or does it seem like he's good for at least one major mistake per game nowadays that leads to a goal?
It's weird. It's the dichotomy between this season and like last season is absolutely apparent and glaring. There are a lot of people who are saying on the subreddit that if a deal was worked out for Araujo to go to Europe, it would have happened already, because I mean, the decline in quality has been very sharp.
That's why the whole Barcelona talk it makes no sense to me. And I think honestly it was, the Galaxy people and the Barcelona people having communication because of Puig. And then maybe the Barcelona people happened to inquire about Araujo, and they just blew it up and made it into this whole like Barcelona.
Or we could have pitched him. Hey, what do you think about Julian?
Or it could be posturing by his management and representatives. I mean, you see this all the time with absolutely crazy transfer rumors of so and so to where and but
Absolutely.
but just to hype up the value of a player and get their name on everybody's tongue. But
Yeah. He's not
I
going to
think
Barcelona.
that ship has sailed. I mean, just seeing the decline in quality of the last season.
Yeah. No, it's like a mental thing. And we've talked about it to death on this show when it comes to Julian. It's like a mental thing. He just gets knocked out of his game so easily, mentally. The recklessness. Remember, I think it was last season when he did the national team camp, played a couple of games, and then came back just a completely different player. He just seemed completely uninterested in club soccer, and thankfully he kind of snapped out of it like halfway through the season. But I don't know, something's going on up there where just like not really the mentality of a professional quite yet. So hopefully he'll develop into that. But defense aside, I mean, it like you said, dude, those substitutions made no sense. Bringing in Cáceres towards the end of the game, a guy that hasn't played club soccer in 4 or 5 months. You bring him on when you're down a goal. I mean, you're tied. Basically, you need a goal to win, and the other team's just pressing and pressing. It just made very little sense. And you keep guys like Leardom on the bench. I don't get it. What's wrong with Leardom? We've seen him play before. He's a solid player. We've seen him play most of his career in MLS. He's been a solid player. He's been a solid midfielder. He still has legs on him. The guy can still run. He's an asset on the bench. And yet Vanny rarely uses that asset. He brings in Sasha, whom we've all seen. Everyone of the eyes, anyone who just has a little bit understanding of the game can see that the guy it's not for lack of trying. It's just not there anymore. It's just not there anymore. And this is a fast-paced game. MLS is a young league. Anyway, we can talk about that to death, but good points, dude. Let's just jump straight into the ugly. Let's do that, right? I'll start with mine just because it's kind of quick, and I think most of the people out there already know. The Galaxy is still out of the playoffs right now. We're in the 8th place in the Western Conference. That is not a playoff position. We are 3 points behind 7th place, Portland. I hear a lot of people talking about, well, the Galaxy has games in hand, and this is going to be our saving grace. It really isn't. It really isn't. We've seen the Galaxy time and time again, season after season, squander golden opportunities. Having 2 games, 1 game in this case for the Galaxy, right? I don't think it weighs very heavy in the Galaxy's favor because other teams that are vying for playoff position, they're actually getting their points. They're getting the points they need. You've seen Portland win their last 3 games. They understand it's do or die time. Like, this is it. They've got their ducks in a row. Other teams below us on the table, they're starting to pick up steam, so I don't know, guys. I see the Galaxy remaining out of a playoff spot. Maybe they'll jump in and out one of these weeks. But it's getting tighter, and it's been super tight. The Galaxy, best they can do, like we said, best case scenario, probably 5th place. And that's the ugly take, guys. It's all in the math. You have to expect that all of the other teams above us win no more games and accumulate 0 points. And you have to assume that the Galaxy continues to win or get some sort of result in order to jump into those spots. But it is unlikely that they'll go higher than 5th place. Knock on wood. Maybe I'm wrong. The Galaxy goes into 4th. That's going to be a tough one. But I don't know, guys. That's my ugly take. The Galaxy's still out of a playoff spot, and it's looking like those chances are going out the window now.
Absolutely. And when I think too, it's like it all comes down to mentality, right? It's, making that final push for the playoffs towards the end of the season. And you look at coaches like Gio Savarese. I mean, players would run through a wall for that guy. He can get the best out of any player. Peter Vermees, Brian Schmetzer. I mean, it really comes down to the cohesiveness and the mentality in the locker room. And I mean, we've seen, leaks and interviews of players saying what they think is going on in the locker room at the Galaxy. And it's the playoff and championship winning mentality just isn't there as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No.
If players are playing for themselves, like Derek Williams alluded to, if people think they're bigger than the club, which, through Chicharito's actions yesterday makes me feel like he thinks he's a lot bigger than the club.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Is that your ugly take, the Chicharito penalty?
Well, I mean, yeah, that is my ugly take. Yeah, I guess I can segue into that.
Yeah,
but
let's hear it, man. I want to hear it.
You know,
Rip
like
into
Matt
him.
said, he had the opportunity to win the game and get us a crucial 3 points, and those 2 points that we dropped could absolutely be vital come decision day. You know, he had the opportunity for a hat trick, committed one of the most selfish acts in a Galaxy shirt I've ever personally seen. I've never seen anything like that from any other Galaxy player. I mean, Landon Donovan, people argue that he was a selfish player, but you could see it in his game. He was very selfless. This Panenka from Chicharito was just absolutely disgusting. I mean, we talked about it last 2 weeks ago when he scored the Panenka penalty, and you know, I alluded to the disrespect of Panenka against a keeper like that, and it is disrespectful to do it in a situation like that in front of a stadium, and especially in the company that we had last night. I mean, I think people are also forgetting this was in front of the alumni of the 2002 MLS Cup winning team.
Yeah.
Our first ever championship as an organization, and it's a complete slap in the face to them. I mean, you had legends at the stadium last night. Arguably the biggest Galaxy legend, Mauricio Cienfuegos, in attendance last night, and you pull something like that. I mean, have some humility in the moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't think that you're that much bigger than the club. I mean, you know, it's just completely unacceptable. And this was also a milestone game for Chicharito. He scored his 200th career club goal, and he completely soured the occasion.
Dude, now that you mention that, like, he had all the glory in the bag. A brace, the 200th goal, right? He could have had the game-winning goal and his hat trick if he had just done the simple thing. But no, he wanted maximum glory. He wanted to become a legend that night, and it just backfired completely. The disrespect in front of the alumni. Damn, Casey, that's freaking hot, dude. Matt, what do you have, dude? This is...
He did become a legend. I'll always remember what he did. No, I guess I think it just comes back to Vanny and his subs. You know, we just see it time and time again. You know, Vanny just making subs that make no sense, picking his favorites or picking what's rational at the time. Like he brought in Sasha when we were at 1-0 and in complete control of the game. You know, Victor was tired, so he came off. But what I don't understand is, like, you bring off your attacking midfielder who's tired and slow to then bring on a person who's old and slower when he's fresh. You know, it just really doesn't make sense. And then, like, if you watch Sasha in the last couple of weeks, like, he's been bad. Like, he hasn't been good. And I don't know why it's such a touchy subject to talk about his age. Like, every person gets old and ages out of the game. That's nothing new. Yeah. And Sasha's time has come and gone. It had come and gone last year. You know, I'm sure he's a great person. Maybe he gives a lot to charity. You know, he coaches young kids, but like, dude, like when it's over, it's over. It's over. Like the movie is done. The credits have run, and like I'm already on the way out the door thinking about what I'm gonna eat next. Like it's done. So you know what I mean? Not a big deal. And then like
Ripperoni.
But it's just one bad sub after another. Like Toronto, we were winning, we were in control. He subs in Raheem Edwards, penalty. You know, we're in control.
Yep.
At home, he subs in Sasha, run of goals. And both times Puig had to save us through his heroic passes or shots. Yeah. And then just another historic moment. Greg Vanney is still not being Vermees. The streak continues of him getting outcoached by more seasoned MLS veteran coaches. And then like the other thing is like why are we even talking about Chicharito still taking PKs? He's been bad at PKs since 2020.
You know, there's some stats for us.
You know, there's an actual statistic that nobody has missed more penalties than Chicharito since he's entered the league. Why? Like, I get he made the first one, but why was he even taking the first one, right? Like, if you look at, I'm sorry, I've got to breach my phone for this one.
Yeah, go for it.
I had a couple of Mai Tais today. So if you look at his stats, Chicharito has taken 30 penalty attempts and only made 16 in his entire career.
Yeah.
Bruh. Like, you gotta stop, man. You got
lucky with one, dude. You should have given the ball to Sasha Arcos.
Yeah, dude.
Just give it up, man. And on the field at the time, like Sasha has attempted 28, he's made 21. Dejan Joveljic has attempted 14 and made 13. And this dude was literally picked up the ball and peacocked all around the field like no one was going to take the ball from him. But you know whose fault that falls under? Like Chicha is going to be selfish Chicha, as most strikers are, right? Like, why has Greg not told him, like, you're not taking penalties anymore? You know what I mean? Like realistically, like in the real world, whether it's in any industry, no player who makes 1/20th of what Chicha makes is going to walk up to Chicha and be like, this is not your time, bruh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's something the coach needs to do. And the fact that Chicharito has somehow, like, after Dijon missed one, Chicharito's like, okay, I guess I'm back to taking penalties. The fact that he felt arrogant enough to do that shows how very little control Greg really has over certain players. He just gets walked over, and that's going to fall back on Greg, and it's going to continue to fall back on Greg because, again, there's no accountability on this team.
100%.
Yeah,
yep.
Zero.
And to that point, Matt, Greg doesn't have the cojones to, reel it in and take the armband from Chicharito, which should happen after what happened last night.
Yeah.
I think as far as the armband is concerned, Bond should wear it. Derek Williams should wear it. Puig should wear it. Anyone but Chicharito, especially after what he pulled last night, because it was the most selfish thing. Like I said, most selfish thing I've ever seen in a Galaxy shirt.
Dude, I think that would be proper to do at this point. You obviously can't bench the guy, right? I mean, because he's your $6 million man. I know, I get it. He has to play the games.
The last guy who benched him got fired.
The
last guy who benched him got fired. Let's be honest about it. He benched Chicharito. He got fired. Like, that's exactly what happened. That's our organization.
So you have to play the guy, right? Personally, if it were Dion and him, I would play Dion. But it is what it is. At the very least, the disrespect to the fans, because that was disrespectful to the fans, disrespectful to the club, disrespectful to your own team, dude. To your own team. I mean, these are guys that are killing themselves for the most part. Some of them are giving it all, right? Just fighting an entire season, being away from your family, traveling, practicing, the physical toll that it takes. And for you to do that is spitting in the face of all your teammates, everyone behind the scenes that puts in work, the trainers, the staff, the fans who pay money to go see the team perform well. That's a huge slap in the face of everyone. He needs to lose that armband, even if it's for just one game. You got to lose the armband. The rest of the season, do it. Put Brugman there as the captain. He looks like a guy that likes to call shots. Derek Williams, he's a veteran. Give him the armband. Just not Chicharito. It's so disrespectful. I'm sorry, people out there are offended by that, but.
And you know what the thing is? Like, there have been bigger players who have humbled themselves and given up a PK like that. Like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right? Like, if you look at his career stats, he's a phenomenal penalty taker. Like, he's up there with like one of the greatest penalty takers of all time. But he hit a cold streak when he was at AC Milan in his first year, and he gave up taking penalties to the midfielder and never asked for them back. That's a real leader. That's someone who can humble himself and understands that the game is bigger than any one person is ever going to be.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know, like, there's like this feeling I have that's like beyond like anger or like being upset where I'm at with Chicharito. It's like almost just like apathy. Like, if he just didn't like play on the Galaxy tomorrow, I could care less. Like, I'm just waiting for him to just leave at this point. Like watching a bad TV show, just letting it run, being on my phone. That's pretty much where I'm at with that guy now.
Yeah. I will say this, and I guess a little bit into Chicha's defense, play a little bit of devil's advocate. The narrative that I've been hearing from all social media since yesterday is that Chicharito, it's his fault that we tied this game. It's his fault that we dropped those 2 points, and essentially it's going to be his fault if we miss playoffs, right? There's certain truth to that. Yes, we could have ended the night with 3 points had he scored that goal, but we were in a position where the team as a whole, right? The players on the field, the 10 other players in the team, the coaching staff, we put ourselves in a position where we were tied with the second worst team in the Western Conference, one of the worst teams in MLS at home. Okay. We should have never been in a position where our win depended on a penalty kick from Chicharito. Okay. It got to that point because, frankly, the team underperformed severely. And that is like a long line of mistakes and errors that have been coming down, right, for years and this entire season. And it all boiled down to that moment. Yes, Chicharito holds a lot of responsibility for that, but he is not solely to blame for this. It's 10 other players on that team as well, that you can point the finger to and say, you know what, you didn't play well enough, you didn't defend well enough, you made this mistake. And we were at the point where we were tied at home against one of the worst teams in Major League Soccer, Sporting Kansas City. So,
Well, and funnily enough, we have the only positive goal differential outside of the playoff line in the Western Conference. Everyone's negative. I think who's below us? I think Seattle's at 0. So they're neutral.
yeah.
We're the only team outside of the line in the Western Conference that has a positive goal difference. So that should tell you that, this team just lacks the mentality and ability to close out games because, like I said, it's like that game of Kerplunk, the sticks get taken out early and all the marbles fall in the last, 20, 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Man, well, guys, anything else to add? We're good. One last thing that I will say, the Galaxy currently, after week 28 games in this season, sitting at 39 points. Last season, 2021, the LA Galaxy at this same point, week 28, was sitting at 39 points. So the exact same amount of points, even though this season the Galaxy has added 9 new players to the roster, good chunk of those starters, right? There was a turnover of starters. Jonathan left, Sebastian left. We had new guys come in, new DP, and the Galaxy is still at the exact same place as last season. And the only difference being that last season we were in a playoff spot. This season we've been out of the playoffs several times, and it's looking like that door is closing on us. So just a little bit of food for thought, guys. The Galaxy is pretty much they're like in quicksand, It feels like they're sinking in quicksand, and they're just desperately trying to get out, but they're only sinking further and further. So some food for thought. Guys, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think just adding on to what you said, like just for context, we're at the exact same point we were at last season, and we were firmly in a playoff spot last season. And here we're at the exact same point total, and we're out of a playoff spot. And somehow people think we're going, like the playoff line is going to be below 48 points. Like, no, like it's not. That's not the way it works, man. It's not going to be below 48 points. It's going to be 48 or higher. Watch, guarantee it. And then just looking forward, like, I mean, obviously you guys did your playoff projection episode last week, and it was really good. And I don't really have anything to disagree with there. But, just to give you the impact of why winning that home game was so important, it's because our average away is 1 point per game. And at 1 point per game with only 2 home games left. And so was that 5 away games, right?
Is it 4?
I think 5 or 4. Yeah.
Two at home for sure. And then we have 7 games left this season, 6 or 7.
Okay,
games.
so 5 away. That's if we even just hold average there, I mean, that's just 5 points added to our total. And then you're looking at a position where we're probably going to have to win both our home games out to even have a shot of maybe breaking the line.
Yeah.
And if you remember,
I said it before the playoff.
So sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, sorry. And I said it before, this team essentially has to play completely different than the team it's been all year for us to make playoffs. And how likely that is, I don't know.
Yeah. And if you remember last week when I crunched the numbers, we were projected to obtain 9 points through these next, 7 games, including this week. So the final 8 games. We've obtained 2 points so far. And basically, we're kind of going towards the projected 9-point range. All we need to do is get a few wins and maybe a couple draws to break that. But I think we are well on track to only obtaining the 9 points that were projected to obtain through the rest of the season, which put us below the playoff line.
Hate your math, Casey.
Yeah, Matt. Casey, I got some comments on that, man. Like math. So one of our listeners was like, dude, math wasn't my strong subject in school. Screw Casey for making me have to do math in my head. But man, look, it's not going to get any easier. Next week we've got Nashville SC, arguably the best player in MLS. I think he's at the top of the Golden Boot race now, if
I
I'm
think
not
so.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Hany
Yeah,
Mukhtar.
he
I
is.
mean, I think he put in the last 3 games, he's put in something crazy like 7 goals in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
21 goals total on the season, 7 assists. You know, this is a team that's getting hot at the right time. This is a team that's pulling further away in the standings, and a team that we talked about this defensively. They're a pretty good team, you know. Offensively, they're firing on all cylinders, you know. And this Galaxy team is going to be on the road in Nashville against a team that is very good. You know what I mean? It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but yeah, guys, I think we pretty much covered everything, right? All right.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty much it.
that's pretty much it. I want to thank the listeners, the viewers. If you guys are listening to this tomorrow on your commute, it's weird because it's going to come out on a Tuesday, today being a national holiday. Got us sweating over here, man. I didn't give these guys a day off. But we appreciate you guys, each and every one of you, for tuning in. We hope to see you guys next week after a Galaxy road win. We're speaking it into existence. But for me, Chris Maldonado, the Galaxy Guy, the Galaxy Guy podcast, my wonderful co-hosts, Matt Granger, Casey Cagle, we want to wish you guys a good week. Adios.